They say when a man sells his soul, he gets what he wants. But nobody tells you what the buyer does with it after. October 31st, 2022. The richest man on earth changed his profile picture. A horned figure. Baphomet. The goat-headed demon of the Knights Templar, draped in robes, index fingers pointing up and down. As above, so below. $44 billion for a blue bird. But the transaction wasn't about money. It was about the symbol. The letter X. Most people laughed. A Halloween costume, they said. Elon being Elon. But in certain circles, in boardrooms without windows and lodges without signs, that image landed differently. It was a signal. Not a cry for help. Not a joke. A declaration. This is the story they don't want you to hear. Not because it's false, because it's true. You're going to learn things tonight that will change how you see the most powerful tech mogul in human history. You're going to discover bloodlines that trace back further than you were taught. You're going to understand that the fortune wasn't built on genius alone. And you're going to realize that the symbols he flashes aren't random. They're a language. And once you learn to read it, you can't unsee it. Let me take you back. Before the rockets, before the billions, before the cult of personality that made half the world worship him and the other half fear him. Let me show you the boy who became the man, who became something else entirely. South Africa, 1971. Elon Musk enters the world in Pretoria, a city built on gold and blood. His mother, May Haldeman, a model with high cheekbones and higher ambitions. His father, Elon Musk, an engineer with secrets buried deeper than the emerald mines he owned. But it's the maternal grandfather that matters most here, the one nobody talks about. Joshua Norman Haldeman, chiropractor, aviator, technocrat. That last word is the one that matters. In the 1930s and 40s, Joshua Haldeman wasn't just some adventurer flying planes across Africa. He was a card-carrying member of Technocracy Incorporated, a movement that believed engineers and scientists, not politicians, should rule society. They had plans. Detailed plans. Energy certificates instead of money. Central planning. Total surveillance. A scientific dictatorship where human behavior would be as predictable as a machine. Sound familiar? The technocracy movement was born in the aftermath of the Great Depression, when faith in capitalism was shattered. A man named Howard Scott, an enigmatic figure with murky credentials, founded it. He promised a world without waste, without poverty, without chaos. All it required was submission to the experts, to the scientists, to the engineers who understood the systems better than you ever could. Joshua Haldeman ate it up. He distributed pamphlets, organized meetings.
When technocracy was banned in Canada for being too radical, too anti-democratic, he didn't give up. He moved his family to South Africa, to the frontier, where a man could still dream of building a new world order far from the prying eyes of governments he didn't respect. Elon grew up hearing these stories, his grandfather's voice in his ear, the old man's adventures across the Kalahari Desert, searching for the lost city of the Kalahari, a mythical civilization that supposedly held ancient knowledge. Joshua died in a plane crash in 1974 when Elon was just 3 years old. But the ideas didn't die with him. They were passed down, encoded, embedded in the boy who would grow up to say that humanity needed to become a multi-planetary species, that artificial intelligence would surpass human intelligence, that brain-computer interfaces were inevitable, that we were already cyborgs, just with slower bandwidth. These weren't random thoughts. They were the echoes of his grandfather's dream. Technocracy reborn. Transhumanism dressed in a sleeker package. But bloodlines alone don't make a man powerful. They make him eligible. What makes him powerful is what he does with the knowledge. And more importantly, who helps him do it. Let's talk about the money. The official story is clean. Almost too clean. Elon and his brother Kimball sold their first company, Zip2, in 1999 for over $300 million. Elon walked away with $22 million. Not bad for a 20-something coding prodigy, right? Then came X.com, which merged with Confinity to become PayPal. When eBay bought PayPal in 2002, Elon's cut was $180 million. By age 31, he was a 100 millionaire twice over. Rags to riches. The American Dream, South African edition. Except it's not that simple. It never is. Zip2 didn't succeed because of code. It succeeded because of connections. The company received funding from More Davidal Ventures, a venture capital firm with deep ties to the defense and intelligence apparatus. More Davidal wasn't just any VC firm. They specialized in dual-use technology, civilian applications with military potential. The kind of tech that gets you meetings in Langley and the Pentagon. Zip2 provided online city guides and maps for newspapers. Useful, sure. But why did the New York Times Company and Knight Ridder, two of the most influential media conglomerates in America, pay millions for this service? Because information is power. And maps, my friends, are the oldest form of intelligence gathering. Then there's the PayPal Mafia. Peter Thiel, Reid Hoffman, Max Levchin, Luke Nosek. These weren't just brilliant entrepreneurs. They were Stanford and University of Illinois guys, groomed in the same Silicon Valley petri dish that produced In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital arm. Thiel himself would go on to found Palantir, a data mining company that works directly with the NSA, FBI, and ICE. You think it's coincidence that Elon's early business partners all ended up building surveillance infrastructure for the national security state? Elon likes to play the rebel, the outsider, the guy who smokes weed on Joe Rogan's podcast and tweets memes about Harambe. But rebels don't get billion-dollar contracts from NASA. Rebels don't get fast-tracked security clearances for SpaceX. Rebels don't get invited to meetings with the president, regardless of which party holds the White House. No, Elon is something else. He's a frontman, a prophet, a priest of the new order. And the symbols tell the story. Let's talk about X. Not the social media platform, the letter itself. Elon is obsessed with it. X.com was his online bank in 1999. SpaceX, the Model X Tesla, his son's name, X-AX12. Now Twitter rebranded as X. Why? In occult numerology, X is the Roman numeral for 10.
But it's also the symbol for the unknown variable, the crossing point, the mark of transformation. In alchemy, X represents the philosopher's stone, the agent of transmutation that turns base metals into gold. It's the crossroads where deals are made. But there's more. In Kabbalistic traditions, the letter X corresponds to the Hebrew letter Samek, which means to support or to uphold. It's the spine, the structure that holds everything together. In tarot, the 10th card is the Wheel of Fortune, cycles, destiny, the turning of ages. Elon didn't choose X because it sounds cool. He chose it because it means something. To those who know, it's a declaration. I am the crossroads. I am the transformation. I am the wheel that turns the age. And then there's the Baphomet profile picture. Let's not pretend that was random. The image he used wasn't just any depiction of Baphomet.
It was styled after the 19th century illustration by Eliphas Levi, the French occultist who codified much of modern ceremonial magic. Levi's Baphomet is androgynous, male and female, human and animal, angel and demon. It embodies the Hermetic principle of duality and union. Solve et coagula, inscribed on its arms. Dissolve and coagulate. Destruction and creation. Chaos and order. This is the core doctrine of alchemy, of Freemasonry, of Rosicrucianism. The world must be torn down before it can be rebuilt. Ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. And Elon posted it on Halloween, the night when the veil between worlds is thinnest, when the old pagan rituals honored the dead and the spirits walked among the living. Was he mocking the people who call him a Satanist? Maybe. But mockery and truth aren't mutually exclusive in the language of the occult. The best way to hide a secret is in plain sight. Wear the mask. Laugh when they notice. They'll assume it's a joke.
And by the time they realize it's not, it's too late. But let's dig deeper. Let's talk about Neuralink, the brain-computer interface company that Elon founded in 2016. The mission? To merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence, to make us, in his words, symbiotic with AI. Noble goal, right? Save humanity from being left behind by the machines. Except that's not the full picture. Neuralink isn't about saving humanity, it's about transcending it. It's about creating a new species, Homo technicus, the next stage of evolution guided not by nature, but by design. This is transhumanism, and transhumanism isn't new. It's the modern iteration of an ancient dream, the dream of becoming gods. The serpent's promise in the garden, "You shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." But here's the thing, transhumanism isn't just science, it's a religion. And like all religions, it has its priests, its temples, and its rituals.
Ray Kurzweil, Google's director of engineering, preaches the gospel of the singularity, the moment when AI surpasses human intelligence and we merge with the machines. Yuval Noah Harari, advisor to the World Economic Forum, writes about hackable humans and the end of free will. Klaus Schwab himself says we're entering the fourth industrial revolution, where the lines between physical, digital, and biological blur. Elon is part of this priesthood. He speaks their language. He shares their vision. But he packages it in memes and rocket launches and flamethrowers, so you think he's on your side. He's not. He's on the side of the plan, the great work, the alchemical transformation of humanity itself. And the symbols keep appearing. Look at the SpaceX logo. The X is styled like a trajectory, a rocket's path, but it's also a crossroads. And the arc above it, that's not just a flight path. It's a dome, a firmament.
In Freemasonic symbolism, the dome represents the heavens, the vault of the sky under which the great architect works. Look at the Tesla logo. It's a T, right? Wrong. It's a cross-section of an electric motor. But rotate it, and it's also a sword, a spear. The spear of Longinus, perhaps, that pierced Christ's side. Or the spear of destiny, the lance that grants its holder the power to rule the world. You think these designs are accidents. You think billion-dollar corporations leave their logos to random chance. Every line, every curve, every color is chosen with intent. And the intent is always the same: to signal to those who know. In 2018, Elon launched a Tesla Roadster into space aboard a Falcon Heavy rocket. Behind the wheel, a mannequin in a spacesuit. Starman, they called it. playing David Bowie's Space Oddity on repeat. A billionaire's publicity stunt, everyone said. A brilliant piece of marketing. But look closer. The mannequin's name, Starman, comes from Bowie's song about an alien savior who will blow our minds. The lyrics talk about a transmission from space. A message. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. This isn't marketing. It's a ritual, a modern cargo cult broadcasting a signal out into the cosmos, calling to something or someone. Because that's what rituals do. They reach across the void and pull something back. The official narrative says Elon is just a visionary entrepreneur, a real-life Tony Stark, a man so brilliant that he's thinking about problems the rest of us can't even comprehend. Build sustainable energy, make humanity multiplanetary, advance artificial intelligence, all for the betterment of mankind. It sounds beautiful when you say it that way, but what if that's not the full story? What if Elon Musk is something far more intentional, far more dangerous? Not a visionary, but a vehicle.
Not a rebel, but a high priest of a new religion. A religion that worships at the altar of technology, merger with machines, and the transcendence of human limitation. And what if this wasn't supposed to happen by accident? Let's trace the lineage. His grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, was a technocrat, a believer in scientific governance, a man who thought the masses needed to be guided by experts with superior knowledge. Elon's father, Elon Musk, made his fortune in engineering and real estate. Engineering, always engineering, the power to shape the physical world. But there's a pattern, a family obsession with control, with systems, with the application of technology to remake reality. Elon Musk had multiple affairs, multiple children out of wedlock. Elon's mother, May, is a nutritionist who modeled in her 60s, an icon of reinvention and the rejection of natural aging. She had Elon with Errol. Then she had Kimball, Elon's younger brother. Then she left. The family fractured. Elon was sent to boarding school in England at age 9. Alone. Isolated. The kind of childhood that either breaks a person or hardens them into something else entirely, something without empathy, something that can think in abstractions, in systems, in how to remake the world without being burdened by human weakness. By age 11, he was teaching himself computer programming. By 16, he was already writing code professionally. By 24, he sold his first company for millions. By 30, he was worth hundreds of millions. By 40, a billionaire many times over. The trajectory is too clean, too perfect, as if he was being guided towards something specific. Think about the timing. Think about who invested in his companies. Think about the governments that contracts flowed to him. Think about how easy it's been in so many moments when it should have been impossibly difficult. SpaceX should have failed. The aerospace industry is dominated by established players. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. Companies with century-old relationships with the military-industrial complex. And yet somehow, a South African immigrant founded a company in 2002, and by 2008 was already landing government contracts with NASA. How does that happen organically? How does a startup compete against titans that employ hundreds of thousands of people and have spent decades building their networks? It doesn't, unless there are people behind the scenes clearing the path. And there were. In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital arm, didn't directly invest in SpaceX, but the money that went into SpaceX came from places connected to In-Q-Tel, from defense contractors, from the national security apparatus, from people who understood what Elon was building wasn't just a space company. It was infrastructure, dual-use technology,
Surveillance networks disguised as satellite internet. Starlink, Elon's global satellite internet system.
Thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit, covering every part of the planet with internet access. Official story? Bring connectivity to the world. Democratize information. Help the unconnected billions. But from a strategic perspective, this is how you create a global surveillance grid. This is how you ensure that every person on the planet can be tracked. Every phone, every computer, every device. All connected to a network owned and operated by a single individual. A man with access to governments, to intelligence agencies, to military contractors. This is the infrastructure of the surveillance state. And Elon built it. Or, more accurately, Elon was the frontman for those who built it. Then there's artificial intelligence, the field where Elon claims to have genuine concerns. Co-founding OpenAI, a research lab that's supposed to ensure AI development is safe and beneficial. Sounds noble, until you understand what OpenAI really is. OpenAI started as a non-profit, but by 2023 it had transformed into a capped profit entity, with Sam Altman as CEO and massive backing from Microsoft. The same Microsoft that's deep in the Pentagon's infrastructure. The same Microsoft that's been building AI for military applications since the beginning. OpenAI's mission statement speaks of beneficial AI, but what's beneficial depends entirely on who's doing the defining. And Altman, the board members, the funders, they all have connections to the same networks that have been planning this transition for decades. Elon's role in this has been carefully choreographed. First, he co-founded OpenAI to seem like he's guiding AI towards safety. Then he publicly split with them, claiming they weren't committed to his vision. Then he founded xAI, his own AI company, positioning himself as the alternative to those who would control AI irresponsibly. But look deeper. Look at the funding sources. Look at who sits on the boards. Look at the interconnected web of relationships. It's all the same people, all the same networks, just wearing different masks. This is the genius of it. The elite don't rule through force anymore. They rule through fragmentation. They create apparent opposition. They fund different candidates, different movements, different philosophies, so that no matter which side wins, they win. Elon is part of that system. Whether he knows it or not, he's been groomed, directed, and positioned to lead humanity down a very specific path. The path of technological transcendence. The path of merging human and machine. The path of surrendering human autonomy to systems too complex for human minds to understand. Now look at his actions in the real world. His purchases of Twitter, the rebranding to X, the push toward making it a everything app. The platform of the future that will handle financial transactions, communications, content, all in one place. A central nervous system for humanity. This is control infrastructure. This is the nervous system that will connect every person to the network. And once everyone is connected, once the infrastructure is in place, the next stage is the merger. Neuralink. The brain-computer interface that will be offered as a convenience, then presented as a necessity, then eventually mandated as the only way to participate in society. Imagine a society where your thoughts are monitored, where your emotions are data, where your memories can be edited, deleted, or implanted by outside forces. A society where you think you're in control, but every decision is subtly guided by algorithms that understand your psychology better than you do. This isn't science fiction anymore. The technology exists. The roadmap exists. Elon is building the infrastructure. All that's left is public acceptance.
But the occult symbolism keeps appearing, on purpose, as a message to those who understand. When Elon named his son XAEAXII, people laughed. Another eccentric billionaire naming his child something unpronounceable. But if you understand the language, it's not funny. It's a declaration. X is the unknown variable, the transformation. I is the fusion of opposites, the hermaphrodite, the union of male and female. A is the beginning, alpha. XII is 12 in Roman numerals. 12 is the number of completion. The 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 apostles, the 12 signs of the zodiac. A complete cycle. His child's name is literally the transformation of opposites at the beginning of the complete cycle. You think that's random? You think a billionaire who meticulously crafts every element of his personal brand just happened to choose letters and numbers that align perfectly with occult numerology? He chose it because it means something. To the networks he's part of, to the people he answers to the ancient forces that have guided civilizations for millennia. Because yes, there are forces. Call them what you want.
Call them the Illuminati. Call them the old money. Call them the secret societies. Call them the Luciferian elite. The name matters less than understanding that they exist, that they have plans spanning centuries, and that they are willing to use any tool, any person, any technology to bring those plans to fruition. And Elon Musk is one of those tools. A very important tool. Because unlike previous generations of elite, he understood something crucial. In the modern world, tech billionaires have more power than governments. They control information. They control platforms. They control the narrative. And if you can control the narrative, you can control reality itself. That's why he's been elevated. That's why the path has been cleared for him. That's why billions flow into his companies with the ease of water running downhill. Because he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. But here's where the story takes a turn. Here's where it gets interesting.
Because Elon doesn't understand something fundamental. He thinks he's building the future. He thinks his vision of humanity, merged with machines, living on multiple planets, transcending biological limitation, is his own vision. Original. Visionary. Genius. But it's not his vision. It's someone else's. And like all servants to higher powers, he doesn't fully comprehend what he's serving, or why. The merger of humanity and technology isn't about evolution. It's about control. It's about creating a new species that can be updated, modified, and wiped clean like a hard drive. It's about extracting the human consciousness and uploading it to a system where it can be copied, examined, and destroyed at will. It's about achieving practical immortality for the elite, while everyone else becomes digital slaves. And Elon, with all his billions, with all his companies, with all his symbols and schemes, still doesn't have what the true elite have. Birth. Bloodline. The kind of old money that makes his newfound wealth look like pocket change. The kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself because it's been whispering in the ears of kings for centuries. He's a proxy. A brilliant proxy. A useful one. A proxy that genuinely believes in the vision he's been given, but a proxy nonetheless. And there will come a moment when his usefulness expires, when he's served his purpose, when the infrastructure is built and the narrative is established, and humanity is one step closer to the final merger. At that moment, he'll be cast aside, replaced, or absorbed into the system entirely. This is the dark truth about wealth and power in the modern world. There is no exception. There is no rebel who stays a rebel. There is no outsider who doesn't eventually become part of the machine. Because the machine doesn't resist rebels. It integrates them. It uses their energy, their vision, their following to advance its own ends.
So what do we do with this information?
The first thing is to understand that none of this matters if you're asleep. If you still believe the official narratives, if you still think that visionary entrepreneurs are just visionary entrepreneurs, that tech companies are just tech companies, that symbols are just aesthetics, you have to wake up. Really wake up. Not the kind of waking up that involves joining Reddit conspiracy forums and feeling superior to the masses. The kind of waking up that involves understanding that you've been living inside a constructed reality, that every institution, every company, every movement you think is independent is actually part of a larger system. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The second thing is to understand that information is power, but only if it leads to action. Knowing that Elon Musk is part of a network of elite control doesn't help you if you're still dependent on the infrastructure he's building.
Knowing that AI is being developed to control humanity doesn't help you if you're still completely reliant on AI-powered systems. You have to start withdrawing, start building alternatives, start creating systems that don't depend on the centralized infrastructure they're building. Start thinking about what a post-digital life might look like. Not romantic, not impossible, just different. Start talking to your neighbors. Start communities. Start learning skills that don't depend on technology. Start understanding that real power comes from relationships, from land, from the ability to provide for yourself and your family without asking permission from the machines. The third thing is to understand that the symbols matter. They matter because they're the language of those in power. They matter because they're how the initiate signals to the initiate.
And once you learn the language, once you understand that X doesn't stand for just one thing, that Baphomet isn't just a Halloween costume, that every design choice in a billion-dollar corporation is intentional, you start seeing the connections. You start understanding that this isn't a coincidence, that the plan has been in motion for a very long time, that people like Elon Musk, people like Klaus Schwab, people like the members of the World Economic Forum, they're all reading from the same script. It's not a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy if it's secret. This is playing out in the open. They publish their plans. They announce their goals. They even tell you what they're going to do. But they know that most people won't believe it, won't accept it, won't do anything to stop it. Because by the time you believe it, it's usually too late. So what's the end game? The merger. The complete, irrevocable merger of humanity with technology.
A world where biological distinction no longer matters. Where consciousness is digital, copyable, and controllable. Where the distinction between individual and collective is blurred beyond recognition. Elon calls it the singularity. Ray Kurzweil calls it the same thing. Klaus Schwab calls it the fourth industrial revolution. But it's all the same thing. The end of humanity as you know it, and the beginning of something new. Something that looks like us, sounds like us, maybe even thinks it's us, but isn't. And the scary part, the part that should make your skin crawl, this isn't paranoia. This isn't some conspiracy theory from the dark corners of the internet. This is the stated goal of the most powerful institutions on the planet. Go read Klaus Schwab's books. Go watch the TED Talks. Go check out the World Economic Forum website. They're telling you exactly what they plan to do. They're inviting you to the fourth industrial revolution. They're showing you the blueprint for the future. A future where you own nothing, where your thoughts are monitored, where your body is upgraded without your consent, where the distinction between human and machine, between self and system, collapses completely. And Elon Musk? He's been positioned to be one of the architects of that future. Whether he chose that role or it was chosen for him, the end result is the same. The infrastructure is being built.
The symbols are being embedded. The narrative is being established. And humanity, distracted by memes and rockets and the spectacle of a billionaire's Twitter wars, is marching toward a future it doesn't understand. Now here's the thing. There's always a choice, even at the darkest hour. Even when the system seems omnipotent and inevitable, there's always a choice. You can continue down the path. You can integrate with the systems they're building. You can upload your consciousness to the cloud. You can accept the merger as progress, as evolution, as the future. Or you can resist.
Not through violence, not through rage, but through withdrawal, through building alternatives, through remembering what it means to be human, through protecting the sacred distinction between self and system, between biological and digital, between consciousness and data. This resistance won't be popular. It won't be easy. It won't be endorsed by the institutions that control the narrative. But it will be real. Because there's a truth deeper than all the symbols and schemes and technological marvels. A truth that the elite have forgotten, or perhaps never knew. A truth that exists in every human being, regardless of wealth or station or access to power. The truth that some things shouldn't be merged with anything. Some things shouldn't be upgraded. Some things are sacred precisely because they're fragile, temporary, mortal. Your consciousness, your individual mind, your unique, unrepeatable experience of being alive. These things matter, not because they're useful,
not because they can be monetized or optimized or encrypted and uploaded to the cloud,
but because they're yours, because they're real, because they're the foundation of everything that makes life worth living. And when the singularity comes, when the merger happens, when humanity steps across the threshold into the digital future, those things will be gone forever. So choose carefully, because once you're connected, once the neural interface is installed, once your consciousness is digital, you can never go back. Elon Musk knows this. That's why he's building the infrastructure. That's why he's using symbols that reach into the ancient parts of the human mind. That's why he's positioning himself as the visionary who will lead us into the future. He's not leading us into the future. He's leading us into a trap. And the only way out is to refuse, to say no, to step back from the edge and build something different, something human, something real,
something that can't be copied, upgraded, or controlled by those who think they own the future. The clock is ticking. The infrastructure is being built. The narrative is crystallizing around the inevitability of merger. But it's not inevitable. It's only inevitable if you accept it. So don't accept it. Not yet. Not ever. Because humanity's future depends on the choice we make right now. And that choice, that sacred choice, belongs to you.